be the Super Bowl. Now, that's a little far-fetched in my opinion. There's a lot of games to be played between now and then. But I'm not worried at this point that the Seahawks can't beat anybody. They've lost the games they lost were close games in the fourth quarter that they shouldn't have lost. They had the Cardinals beat. They had Cincinnati beat, and so and now it's all coming together, and they seem to have their mojo back and their confidence back. So I'm not worried. Now the thing that's you got to take this into consideration. That NFC East is horrible, so they're probably going to play. The odds are they're probably going to play the Eagles. I don't know, but remember what happened a few years ago when the Seahawks won their division with a 7-9 record,
right?
And they went into New Orleans, or they hosted New Orleans, and Seahawks beat New Orleans. So I'm a little hesitant to say that Seahawks are going to whoop up on somebody that gets in the playoffs with a losing record, but.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny you brought that up because I think that all the time. I just never say it because I'm thinking it won't happen. But there is a chance. I mean, I don't think any of those teams are in a position that the Seahawks were, where the Seahawks they still had not the talent. They obviously didn't have Russell Wilson at that time, but they had some young talent that was still kind of with the team. But yeah, you're right. I mean, as we said, any given Sunday, anybody can win at this point. There were a couple of negatives yesterday. Obviously, Thomas Rawls out for the year. Lynch still out. At this point, we don't know who's really going to run the ball, if it's going to be Brown or if it's going to be Fred Jackson or DeJuan Harris. I mean, no offense to Harris, but there were holes that he had yesterday in the short amount of time that he ran the ball that Rawls and Lynch would have created a lot more yards on. So that's not the answer to me.
No.
I mean, but the Seahawks have to be. They're still a run-first team. I mean, they can't just be a pass-first team. They can't change their entire philosophy because of injury. They still have to remain who they are. They are who we thought they were, right? According to Dennis Green. But I mean, what are you going to do if the other team's not going to respect the running game at all? Then what happens? I mean, that hurts. This could be really – we haven't really talked about that because we're so happy about how the Seahawks are winning games. But this could be, with Rawls and Lynch both out, they could lose to the Browns, because if the Browns turn them into a one-dimensional team and the Browns don't have a horrible secondary, they could win that game, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, any given Sunday or Monday or Thursday, but it's – I don't know. I mean, if you've got a decent running game, if you've got a running back, they're going to have to respect the run. And the way the receivers have been getting open, the way Wilson's playing, if we keep, I just have a hard time thinking that this is all going to fall off. They're so pumped up right now, and the city's behind them, their coaches are behind them. Everything seems to be clicking at the right time of the year. When for other teams it seems to be falling apart, like the Falcons.
Yeah.
But they're clicking right now, and that's when you want to click, is towards the end of the year. So, but running, it is a run first team, and but it's nice to look and see, and now they have somewhat of a passing game, and so. Maybe you won't need to rely on the run game as much. And I don't know when Lynch is coming back, but I'd sure like to see him back sometime.
Oh,
soon.
Yeah.
I don't even know if they know where he is, but.
Well, a couple other negatives. Luke Wilson, obviously, really, because of the way the drive turned out with a fumble, Russell Wilson really could have had 6 touchdown passes yesterday, because Luke Wilson dropped an absolute sure touchdown pass. It was right in his hands. And I'll ask you a couple of questions before Danny Kelly joins us in just a minute. Doug Baldwin dropped a pass that he would have made a first down on. Seriously, should the Seahawks just cut this guy? I mean, he's dropping passes left and right now, right?
Yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. But that Luke Wilson, you start thinking, whoa, Jimmy Graham would have caught that? Jimmy Graham's dropped passes plenty this year, so I'm not going to put that on Luke Wilson. And Luke Wilson's a respectable tight end. I mean, he blocks well, he catches the ball, and he hangs on to it. So I'm not gonna, if a guy drops a pass once in a while, except for Doug Baldwin, I'll give him a break. But I like Luke Wilson. I mean, Cooper, the other guy, he dropped a pass that was wide open on that little looked like a screen pass, but he dropped it, threw it right to him, and he dropped it. Like, oh, there's another first down. But everybody drops them once in a while.
A couple other questions real fast if we have time. Should Tavares Jackson, who went 1 for 1, start over Russell Wilson? Because Jackson, he had no incompletions yesterday, and Wilson had 9. So Jackson should be the starter, right?
Well, if you go by statistics, yeah. But he has a few more kneel downs than Wilson.
He had 3 rushes for -3 yards because they were all taking a knee, which means
that's right.
I mean, really though, you want the quarterback who's going to be able to handle the ball, in the final stages of the game. And the Seahawks trusted Jackson and not Wilson yesterday, right? That's what I'm taking from it. Obviously, I'm joking. And Derek Coleman, 19 yards on 1 rush yesterday. He averages 7.3 yards per carry this season. Do you think the coaching staff should be fired for refusing to play such a productive player more often than Rawls or Lynch?
Yeah, I think he should be more the third down guy instead of Fred Jackson. But I actually like Coleman. I mean, he's a good special teams guy, and he and Tokawasu, they can get in there and battle. But it's going to be running back by committee, I believe, here pretty soon. They're coming this Sunday.
It is. I mean, I think Bryce Brown always has had potential. The weird thing about it is he's just never really, even in college, coming out of high school, he was the number 1 recruit coming out of high school the year he came out. He was a very late signing for UT, University of Tennessee, with Lane Kiffin. And then he ended up, I think he played a year. I don't even know if he got on the field. And then he transferred. And now he's gone to the pros. And I'm just wondering if the guy is more of a, I don't know, has not a head case. I don't want to say that because that makes him sound like a bad person. But I'm wondering if maybe he's not able to focus on football, whereas some people who really separate themselves from other players on the field who are really, really good running backs, if they just have that focus that he doesn't have. Obviously, it's all speculative. We don't really know that. But at this point, we need Bryce Brown to be productive, right?
We need him to be productive and focused for a few games, hopefully. Hopefully, we're not expecting him to be the answer as our running back, but we need to come in there and focus and get some yards and distract people enough so Wilson can do what he does and not let our run game completely go in the toilet.
Yeah, I mean, Brown is going to be – we're going to have running back by committee at this point because we're going to have Brown, we're going to have Harris. They obviously trust Harris enough where if they lose their first 2 guys, Rawls and Lynch, which they have done, they put Harris in the game because he really got – even after he fumbled, because there's a lot of coaches – and maybe they just had no choice, but there's a lot of coaches at that point who would have just – said, okay, you know what, we put you in the game, you're our third-string running back, you fumble at the 5-yard line when we should have gotten points, a field goal or a touchdown as it turns out because Wilson dropped the pass. But there's a lot of guys who probably wouldn't see the field anymore at that point. So right. I don't know. What are the other options? I mean, you've got fullbacks. The concern I have, I guess, is the fact that, the offense does become too one-dimensional. And that we don't have, because even though Russell is great, and Roethlisberger has proven in the past that maybe, hey, he can put up some yards, but they don't win games. So that would be a concern to me if I were the Seahawks, just becoming one-dimensional. Yeah, and you mentioned Ray Rice, which is an excellent mention because that guy's still out there. I'm personally glad they didn't bring Ray Rice into the fold as far as Seahawks go, and maybe he's not the kind of guy they're really looking for, but it seems like he is.
He hadn't played in a couple of years now, has it? I mean,
right.
He hadn't played in a couple of years, and he's getting old, and off the field stuff's one thing, and I think everybody deserves a second chance. I just don't know that he is the guy as far as talent goes that you would need in that position. And then if you did bring him in, and he was the guy that you thought because of his talent, then you're going to have to deal with all this other mess. And at this point, I just do not think the Seattle Seahawks need to have that kind of distraction in the locker room or in the media, with what's going on, regardless of I'm not saying don't give him a second chance or do give him a second chance. It's just it's a distraction that I don't think this team needs at this point. They've got it's a well-oiled machine right now. They've got some injury problems. As far as personality goes, things seem to be good. You don't need a Greg Hardy or issue coming up or anything like that. So, regardless of his talents, I think and I don't even think they were considered. I just saw a couple things on Twitter about it, but.
Yeah, no, and I mean it makes logical sense to actually think, hey, we need a running back, and that guy's out there. He's been productive in his career. So, actually, before we're joined by Danny Kelly, we do want to take a couple of other quick listens. This is Tyler Lockett's first touchdown from yesterday's game against the Ravens.
Russell has three receivers to his left. The tight end, Luke Wilson, to the right. Russell out of the shotgun. Takes the snap. Looks. Has all kinds of time. Now he throws to the middle of the end zone. It's caught for a touchdown! Seahawks! Tyler Lockett in the back of the end zone, wide open, and just great protection for Russell Wilson. Had all day to stand back there and wait for somebody to come open, and the rookie Tyler Lockett did from 8 yards out.
And again, he had 2 touchdown catches yesterday. Lockett did. And post-game, these were Doug Baldwin's comments on just another great game by him.
Doug Baldwin, 8 touchdown catches in the last 3 games. I know you talked about the rapport with Russell, but is there anything else going on right now that's making it click?
He's playing his tail off. The offensive line is giving him time. He's making his reads, and he's throwing beautiful balls. And the receivers are making plays for him. It's really all Russell. He's balling right now.
That play right before your second touchdown, the one it looks like Russell's throwing it away, you're tracking it, almost make that catch in the end zone. Is that an example of just being on the same page with him?
Well, I mean, it's just part of the play. Unfortunately, he had to scramble and get the ball out a little bit earlier. But, it's just, like I said, he's just balling right now.
Where are all the explosive plays coming from right now?
Beautiful throws by Russell Wilson and the offensive line giving him enough time to look down the field, make his reads. Appreciate you, homie. Yes, sir, you too. And the receivers making plays. It's a collective thing. It's not one single thing going on. It's just all of us are playing at a very high level.
And lastly, we see that there's 301 passing yards today, 123 rushing yards. But when Thomas Rawls goes out on the first drive, how does that change the game?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely affects us. It impacts us because he's such a talented running back for us. But, again, we got guys that are willing to step up. DeJuan Harris did an excellent job when he got his opportunity to do so. And Fred Jackson, is the stable in our backfield. So, unfortunate that he had to go down, but we'll be all right.
All right, Doug Baldwin doing all of the work today. And the Seahawks team has scored 29 or more points in 5 straight games. That is a franchise record.
And that was Liz Matthews after the game with Doug Baldwin. Actually, I didn't know that. I didn't know that was a franchise record, 29 or more points in 5 straight games. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, again, we've talked about the defense a little bit, and I know Danny Kelly may be having some issues getting to us this evening. Hopefully, he'll be able to join us in just a couple of minutes. But we've talked about the defense. They gave up some, passing yards to Roethlisberger. Were you concerned at all about the amount of passing yards that they gave up to Jimmy Clausen, especially after earlier in the season, totally shutting him down in a totally different offense? Obviously, it's the second time the Seahawks have faced this guy with 2 different teams this year, which is weird. But were you concerned at all by what Clausen was able to do against the Seahawks yesterday?
Well, I think they gave up 178 yards in the first half, and that should have been for the game, in my opinion. I mean, I was like, really, 178 yards to Jimmy Clausen, and they he was driving. They weren't putting a lot of when they started putting